Hello, friends, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. I am your host, Dan Zayer, and I am delighted to talk Star Wars with you. Since May of 2013, I've been committed to creating a positive, family-friendly, spoiler-free place for our Star Wars community. Imagine walking into your favorite coffee shop and joining a lively discussion about Star Wars films, Disney Plus live action, animation, books, comics, collectibles, or Star Wars experiences at the Disney theme parks. I want to bring that sense of community to this podcast, my website, coffeewithkenobi.com, special events, live video experiences, email newsletter, which you can sign up for on coffeewithkenobi.com, and more. Join our Star Wars community at coffeewithkenobi.com and be part of something special. Thank you to the official travel partner of Coffee with Kenobi, MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. Check out coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan-travel for a no-cost, no obligation quote, and let them know Coffee with Kenobi and Dan Zayer sent you. And while you're at it, be sure to look into joining us on June 16th to the 20th, 2025 on the Disney Wish. Coffee with Kenobi and Mouse Fan Travel will be going on the Disney Wish, and I want you to join me to sail across the ocean, talk Star Wars, have a great time, bring your family and your friends, and this is really going to be an awesome trip. Again, find out more at coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan-travel. On today's show, I bring you an exclusive interview with the legendary Star Wars icon, Doug Chiang. I get an exclusive interview with Doug at this year's D23 in Anaheim, California at the Anaheim Convention Center in the Lucasfilm Pavilion right after he does a presentation of what Stagecraft and the volume is like, and you're going to hear that after this intro, followed by my interview with Doug. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here and welcome. Today I'd like to talk about Stagecraft. So what is Stagecraft and why is it important for Star Wars? Stagecraft, or the volume, has revolutionized our filmmaking process for Star Wars.
How's it going?
The LED volume is a combination of years of development and refined by John Favreau for our live-action Star Wars series. Like George Lucas, Jon Favreau is an innovative filmmaker who likes to push the boundaries of filmmaking. His great films like The Jungle Book and The Mandalorian made The Mandalorian classics. I'm sorry, Lion King made The Mandalorian classics. My name is Doug Chiang. I've been a film designer for over 40 years, and I've been designing Star Wars for over 27 years. I've been very fortunate to work with some of the most creative and innovative filmmakers today. Filmmakers who are not afraid to push the boundaries of filmmaking and take bold risks. Directors like George Lucas, Robert Zemeckis, and now Jon Favreau. Innovation is what excites me and gets me up in the morning. Today, I'd like to just give you a sneak peek behind the curtain of our filmmaking process and leave you with what excites us about making our Star Wars live-action series using Stagecraft. I also like to share a brief background and history of how and why we developed Stagecraft. I will share how our art and design process has evolved because of the LED screen, and how we design our sets to take advantage of its strengths and how we work around its limitations. Filmmaking is historically about innovation. Francois Truffaut said that film is a combination of truth and spectacle. Spectacle is what drives innovation. For Star Wars, we're constantly striving to find new methods to streamline our process to create the spectacle that audiences expect. Among the first to do this was film pioneer George Méliès, who developed groundbreaking photographic techniques in his film A Trip to the Moon in 1902. Using a combination of photographic tricks paired with painted backdrops, he created spectacular imagery unlike anything that had been seen before. George Méliès is often considered the father of visual effects. He created spectacular visuals by combining theatrical paintings with simple in-camera photographic effects. He used simple tricks like double exposures to create elements that he added then with paintings instead of building large physical sets, just like this illusion of the moon environment. In this photo, you can see the large canvas backdrop that he used to create the background. Here you can see more of his filmmaking process. The spaceship, for example, is mostly a 2D painting, painted to look three-dimensional. Interestingly, this is still a practice that we use today. For example, Here is our Yavin hangar set from Rogue One, built on location in 2015. However, notice the X-Wings in the background. If you look closer, you may notice something unusual. And that's because they're paintings on plywood. This is an old school trick that still works really well. Filmmaking has had a rich history of using a variety of low-tech techniques to achieve high-tech results. Alfred Hitchcock used scenic paintings to recreate locations in a soundstage. This is a scenic painting of Mount Rushmore for North by Northwest in 1959. It was hand-painted on a stretched canvas backing that was scenically painted in the studio. These paintings are actually quite large. They often cover a whole stage wall. In this frame, you can see how the painted backdrop of Mount Rushmore completed the illusion of it being on location. The painting carefully matched the lighting and composition of the foreground set. With proper planning, the view outside the window seamlessly adds a great deal of production value without the expense of building a big set or going on location. Here's a more rarely used technique involving hanging glass paintings. In this scene from the 1963 film From Russia with Love, the grand ballroom looked like an elaborate set with a beautiful ornate ceiling. In reality, the grandeur of the ceiling was a painting. The glass painting was placed between the camera and the set. The painting of the ornate ceiling lined up perfectly with the set when viewed through the camera's lens. In the final shot, you can see how the painting completes the illusion of the grand ballroom. This technique works really well, but requires a lot of planning and time to set up. The artist had to complete the painting on site to match the lighting and composition of the set. Another more common technique was using matte paintings for the same effect. The Star Destroyer bridge from Empire Strikes Back is mostly a matte painting. The red section is the physical set. The ceiling and the window mullions are in the matte painting. The main difference between a matte painting and a hanging glass painting is that the matte paintings are completed months after filming has ended. This didn't require that the painting be completed on site. However, all the pre-planning is still necessary to make sure the live action photography lines up with the painting. Here's the painting. Matte paintings are often painted on glass as well. In fact, they're actually painted on glass shower doors. The shower doors roughly have the right aspect ratio in a built-in frame. This is the actual set. It was a minimal build, just the window and the workstations below for the actors. All of these techniques involve static backgrounds created for specific camera angles with specific lighting. This limits where you can place the camera. And because the lighting is baked into the painting, the paintings have to match the lighting angle of the physical set for the illusion to work. Almost 25 years later, for Revenge of the Sith, we built a similar small set. However, to overcome the issue of static matte paintings, blue screen or green screens were used. The advantage of blue screen is that it allows us to replace the background with visual effects and animation. This is the most common technique for contemporary films today, and it has a lot of advantages. The content can be very elaborate with dynamic elements. Additionally, the camera can move and not be locked off as in traditional matte painting. The dots on the screens are tracking monitors to accurately recreate camera moves. The disadvantage is that during photography, the set doesn't exist. Actors can't see the set or the environment. Likewise, the cameraman has to guess what the scene will be and compose the shots appropriately. This is the biggest drawback of using this technique. Without careful planning, the final result, created months after principal photography has ended, could feel false if the set, acting, and camera work don't tie well together. This is where Stagecraft comes in. The Volume's LED screen allows us to create realistic moving backgrounds in real time. Using game engine technology, the LED screen acts like a giant TV screen. The camera's movement is tracked with sensors, so the projected image lines up perfectly with the camera's perspective, no matter where the camera is. In fact, the camera can even be handheld to follow the actors with the backgrounds matching perfectly. This gives us the flexibility of blue screens, but with real-time backgrounds. Another advantage of Stagecraft is that it allows us to determine what parts of the set are necessary to build. The this photo, you can see that we only built a portion of the Razor Crest spaceship for the actors to stand on. The rest of the ship and the background exists on the LED wall. This allows us to limit physical construction and save on construction costs. However, we still have to design and build everything in advance, whether it's virtual or physical. The volume was a breakthrough in the evolution of scenic backings. It gave us the opportunity to achieve impressive sets without the cost of building an elaborate set. This is our design for our Ugnaught workshop from season 3 of The Mandalorian. We wanted an elaborate droid repair shop in the bowels of the city with dozens of droids being repaired and built. This design had a lot of production value and would have required an extensive and expensive set build. In fact, this is the extent of our physical set for our Ugnaught workshop. It was a minimal set, mostly the floor, table, and the lighting fixtures. And here's the complete set with the volume turned on. When you walk into our volume set, the illusion is so real that it's sometimes hard to tell what is virtual and what is physical. The volume allows us to achieve in-camera shots. This is important for 2 reasons. First, it allows the actors to see what they're supposed to see and react accordingly. Second, it allows the cinematographer to frame the shots and compose the scene without guessing. Because it's a real-time render, lights can be adjusted dynamically. In this scene, we can adjust the sun to simulate different times of day. The virtual background can also be rotated as needed for better composition. But one of the coolest advantages of the LED screen is that we can bring distant locations into our sound stages, meaning we don't have to take the entire crew out on location and deal with unpredictable weather and lighting. We bring the location to us instead of going on location. This doesn't mean that we don't go on location anymore. We still do. Only instead of a full crew of hundreds, it's only a couple of people to scan the real location so we can recreate it virtually. Additionally, since the screens completely surround our set, the characters are lit by the LED screen as if they were in the actual environment. The LED screen provides most of the lighting. Reflections are real and captured in camera. We can also control the time of day, meaning that we can have unlimited magic hour, a cinematographer's dream. We no longer have to chase the light anymore. Typically on location, you have about an hour to film sets of scenes, and this can be really challenging and involve multiple days of shooting just to get the scene. With the volume, we can film sunsets or dawn for as long as we want. Our sunsets can last all day. While Stagecraft isn't right for all films, for our Star Wars live action series, it was a game changer. By now, you may have noticed that many of our volume sets feature overcast skies, or are staged at night or indoors. And that's because one of the major challenges is direct sunlight. Harsh, bright light will contaminate the screen and wash them out. Additionally, trying to simulate bright sunlight in a soundstage always looks false. There's no practical way to mimic the brilliance of the sun indoors. To overcome this, we design our shots around this limitation. For example, we stage outdoor scenes by having a sunlit part of the set on the LED screen only. The physical set with the actors are in shadow. This is very effective, and we can achieve the best of both, an indoor shoot with sunlight. This is our volume set for Pelly's hangar on Tatooine. And here's the final shot as seen through the camera. This works with careful planning, but we have to be careful to not overuse it, since we'll start to review our hand, and most of our scenes will start to look similar. Additionally, in designing for Stagecraft, we found that the volume works the best when the LED wall lines up approximately to the edge of our set. The result is that many of our sets being designed to be roughly the same size as the volume. And unfortunately, our audiences have gotten too smart now and are starting to notice this. So we are constantly coming up with new tricks to keep the audience off balance and guessing where the line between what is real and what is not is. Using Stagecraft for our shows, our goal is to never compromise in quality. We hold each of our shows to the same high standards as our theatrical films. Over 5 years and after 7 live action series, we've learned to embrace these limitations. I found that the most creative work is done with the fewest choices and the most restrictions. Orson Welles once said, "The the enemy of art is the absence of limitations. To do this, we've developed a workflow that streamlines our design process. Much of the work that is done typically in post-production is now done up front before principal photography. Decisions have to be made and committed early. We have merged pre-production and post-production design into one seamless process. Digital sets are built in parallel with physical ones. Visual effects and set extensions have to be designed and finished in advance as well. In designing for our series, time is always a limiting factor. Once the film date is set, the clock starts ticking. Typically, that's about 30 weeks out or 7 months. That may seem like a lot of time, but it's not. Especially if you consider that we're designing and building 3 feature films with the sets, characters, and vehicles in about 2/3 of the time of a feature film. Here's how we do that. I like to break down 5 sets from our series to share how Stagecraft is vital in creating our Star Wars universe. First up, this is the painting for Alderaan, for Obi-Wan Kenobi. We wanted to create an epic shot to feature the beauty of this planet. This landing platform design was inspired by the Bespin landing platform from Empire Strikes Back. The similar form language of the landing platform gives design continuity to Star Wars. This scene from Empire Strikes Back was mostly a matte painting on glass by Ralph McQuarrie. The black area is the live action set for the actors. And here's Ralph McQuarrie painting the matte painting on the glass shower door. The camera was locked off, so we only saw the scene from this angle. The soft diffuse light of this scene would have made this a perfect Stagecraft set had the technology existed in 1983. So that's how we approached the design of our landing platform scene. We deliberately designed it to be within the shadow of a building to mitigate the direct sunlight issues. And as before, the sunlit part would be on the LED screen. This is the layout of our set. The curved egg-shaped wall is our LED screen. We only built the landing platform and the ship's ramp. The blue area represents areas that will be replaced with visual effects afterwards. Here's the LED content turned on with our set. And this is the LED wall. The ship was actually replaced and augmented with visual effects in post-production because the LED screen was too close to the actors and wouldn't hold up in a close-up. In reality, this was all that we built for the ship for filming. Mainly the ramp for the actors and the blue walls representing the ship's doorway. When our LED screen is too close to the actors, we often have to replace the content with visual effects afterwards because you can start to see the actual screen itself with the LED lights. Just like when you get too close to a TV monitor and you start to see the individual pixels. Here's another angle of the same set. This is where the advantage of Stagecraft is evident. Because the content on the LED screen exists as a full 3D environment, we can move the camera to get other angles of the same scene. It offers us opportunities to come up with new shots on the day. And here's the final shot. The foreground is our physical set with the actors. The ship was added in post-production with visual effects, and the background is the volume. For our conference room for Obi-Wan, I wanted to take advantage of the volume and try something different. This was our concept painting of that set. This conference room is located in the underwater fortress of Nur, and I thought it would be fun to turn this set into an inverted aquarium with huge windows and a skylight that looked out into the water. This scene was supposed to be emotionally tense, so the weight of the water outside adds a layer of visual tension. You feel uneasy standing in here. The set was designed to get the maximum visual impact with the minimum amount of physical construction. Here's the concept painting of the design looking back at the entrance. Once the design was approved, we broke down the design to figure out how much of the set should be built. Because the action centered around the conference table and the entrance, that was all that we built. The floor, the table, and the entrance. Basically only the essential pieces for the actors to interact with. The rest of the set existed virtually. And here's our volume turned out. The diameter of the room exactly matched the diameter of the volume set, and the seams in the ceiling actually lined up with the top window lines. This set was specifically designed to take advantage of the strengths of the volume. of virtual content was rendered in real time, including fish outside the windows. Notice that the reflections are real and ties the virtual content with the real set. We often design our sets to have shiny floors to take advantage of LED reflections. For Ahsoka, we designed this elaborate bridge for the Cyan Bridge. The design was inspired as if you were inside a giant clockwork mechanism with all the intricate moving parts. This would have been a very expensive set to build. Traditionally, the realities of budgets often require us to design sets that are achievable as physical builds. This can be limiting creatively. However, with the volume, we're allowed more freedom to design sets to have maximum visual impact while staying on budget. This is all that we built practically. Mostly the floor again, and a few set pieces. The rest existed on the LED content. And here's the set as seen in the series. The hyperspace out the window was animated live and filmed in camera. For the city of Dayun for Obi-Wan, we wanted to create a bustling Hong Kong-like street with a lot of production value. The challenge was how to achieve this without going on location or building a huge city block-sized set. Our solution was to push the limitations of the volume to its maximum. This is the approved design of the street set. To maximize the most of the volume, we designed the street to be modular, so the virtual content could be reconfigured to play as different streets and neighborhood. The set dressing was also built to support this idea as well. We created a Lego kit of parts, both virtually and physically, and reconfigured them as necessary. And here's our volume set. If you look carefully, you can see where the seam of the floor is, where it meets the LED wall, which is here. The virtual city was fully interactive with real-time digital doubles walking the streets and vehicles driving by with animated steam and lights. The production value that you gain on an LED set like this is incredible. Finally, I'd like to share one last example. For season 2 of The Mandalorian, we designed the Imperial Light Cruiser, a ship that was first seen in animation and now brought into our live-action series. The Light Cruiser is a small frigate class of Star Destroyer. It was used as a launching platform for TIE fighters. It was our Star Wars version of a small aircraft carrier. The key design element is the launch tube between the two front prongs. Fighters are launched from here like a giant Pez dispenser. Here's the reverse view looking out as the TIE fighters launch. In the story, the Mandalorian hijacks the Imperial shuttle to infiltrate the shuttle, to infiltrate the Light Cruiser. But since the shuttle is quite large, it didn't fit into the launch tube. So we had to back engineer the design of the launch tube and enlarge it for the bigger shuttle. Originally, it was written that the shuttle would actually go into the hangar bay, but there was no way it would fit. So we decided to dock it outside in the enlarged launch tube. Aesthetically, it turned out to be more interesting. This is very typical of our design process. We first design for aesthetics, creatively setting the aspirational bar as high as we can. Then script requirements often demand that we adjust the design to fit the story. As a result, we sometimes end up with a stronger design. This is the cross-section, and you can see how it would fit. In designing for Star Wars, we always strive to figure out the logic and do the math so our sets make sense and work. But even if the audience never sees this, it's the invisible homework that we do to make our designs believable and authentic. This is the concept painting of the shuttle docked at the entrance. And here, Mando and the team are seen running down the launch tube to enter the hangar. And this is the hangar. It was quite complex, with TIE fighters hung on rails in the ceiling. To achieve this look, the set would have been huge. Story-wise, however, it was important to keep the scope and scale to communicate the purpose of the ship. The volume allowed us to not compromise on the design. In fact, we could expand on it. Here's our full virtual set. It was an elaborate and extensive digital build. Star Wars often involves exotic locations like this hangar. And because so much of Star Wars doesn't exist and has to be created, our sets can be big.
back on the D23 floor and the ILM Stagecraft Lucasfilm Pavilion. I'm here with the legendary Doug Chang. Doug, we got to speak when the Galactic Star Cruiser opened. Pleasure to have you back on the show again.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
So I'm a teacher. I present all the time. I didn't know what an amazing presenter you are. I've never had the good fortune to see you present. You were a pro up there. What is it like for you? Because you often work behind the scenes, but now you're kind of teaching the masses about what this is like. The passion you just awakens.
Oh, thank you. No, I appreciate that. Because, it's interesting because when I grew up, I loved watching behind the scenes making of series because I just love the artistry and the craftsmanship that goes on behind the scene. And so now that I have an opportunity to actually share that, I really enjoy this because what I want to do is I want to inspire the next generation of filmmakers.
Well, I think that it's absolutely working. You look around, you see the faces, the excitement on people. And when you even show things, like this presentation went all the way back to the beginning, and then we get to see some work with The Empire Strikes Back. I continue to marvel at how much of the set is built versus the special effects that go into it.
Yeah, I think that's the magic of what we do for these films is that film is an illusion. And all these techniques, as powerful as Stagecraft is, it's just a tool. And it's the artistry behind that can get the imagery on the screen, because at the end, the audiences are going to experience just what they see. And so I love the idea of playing all those magic tricks, because in some ways, filmmakers are magicians. They're really recreating reality. It's not real. And there's an artistry to it. Like, for example, miniatures. Miniatures are not meant to recreate reality. It's meant to recreate the impression of reality. And Stagecraft is exactly the same thing.
And then, so this is the set that they mentioned they're using. It's like it's actually actively in production right now, but they took it here just for D23. I have, in all the years I've been here in Celebration and Comic-Con, I've never seen a studio do anything like this. I have goosebumps. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, I think that's what the charm is. Like an event like at D23, we know that the fans are passionate, and we want to share as much of the process as we can, because I think that's part of the appeal and the magic is that when they can see all the artistry that goes on behind the scenes, I think there's a greater appreciation for the end product.
And when they showed the footage of you sitting on the Naboo Starfighter on Mando, and was that probably for you, even though you're a part of the magic, that must have been cool just to be a fan for a second.
Oh, I'd say that was one of the most magical days for me, because I worked on the Naboo Starfighter over 25 years ago with George Lucas, and to have it brought here, present day, and to actually sit in it again, brought me back to that same time period. It was like time stopped. And then the fact that we had the volume and I was actually flying on Tatooine was like surreal. I mean, if you saw some of the other footage, I just had the biggest grin. I was the biggest fan, and I was just like one of everybody else again.
Isn't it fun? Like, you get to be a big kid, right? And you get to enjoy it both as a professional, as a fan and love of art and production. I mean, you've done it all and you're a fan. I think that sincerity comes through in everything you do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. No, and honestly, I am. I'm enjoying what I do, and it's because I'm a huge fan of this, and I feel very lucky that I get to continue to do this and then share sort of my passion with the audience.
Well, I hope that somehow Palpatine figured out a way to clone you, because you are invaluable to Star Wars. Thank you so much for being back on Coffee with Kenobi.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here.